The research vessel New Seoul moved slowly through the dark space between stars. Captain Lee Hyunwoo stood on the bridge watching the distant lights of unknown worlds. His ship was far from home, exploring the outer edge of known space where humans had never traveled before. "Captain, we are getting some strange signals," said Dr. Park Ji-won from her station. She was the ship's science officer, a woman who had spent years studying alien life forms. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls as she tried to understand what she was seeing. Lee walked over to her station. "What kind of signals?" "They look like communication signals, but they are not from any human colony. The patterns are too different." Parks's voice was quiet but worried. "I think we found something new." The bridge became silent, except for the soft hum of the ship's engines. Commander Kim Tae-hyun, the ship's military officer, looked up from his own station. "Are you sure they are not natural signals? Sometimes space can create sounds that seem like messages." Park shook her head. "No, these are definitely made by intelligent beings. They have structure and pattern. Someone is talking out there." Lee felt a cold feeling in his stomach. The New Seoul was a research ship, not a warship. They had some weapons, but they were meant for protecting against space. Pirates, not for fighting unknown aliens. "Can you understand what they are saying?" "I'm working on it," Park said. Her computer screen showed waves of data as she tried to decode the alien language. "Give me some time." Hours passed. The crew worked quietly while Park struggled with the alien signals. Finally, she called the captain back to her station. "I think I have something," she said. "It is not perfect, but I can understand some words." Her face was pale. "Captain, you need to hear this." Lee leaned over her shoulder as she played the translated message. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking in broken human language. Soft. "Species. ... Easy prey. No weapons. ... Weak minds. Harvest time soon." The words hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. Kim stood up quickly, his hand moving to his weapon. "You're talking about us, about humans. There's more," Park said. She played another message. 12 systems. Eliminate all. No survivors. No survivors. ... Operation Silent Harvest begins." Lee felt his blood turn to ice. Someone was planning to attack human colonies. Not just one world, but 12 different star systems. He looked around the bridge at his crew. They were all good people, scientists and explorers who had never expected to face war. "How long have they been watching us?" Lee asked. Park checked. Her data, based on the message timestamps, at least 6 months, maybe longer. She looked at more information. "Captain, they know about our colonies. They have been studying us." Kim walked to the tactical display. "I think we are weak. The messages keep talking about humans being soft and easy to defeat." His voice was angry. "They have been watching our research ships in peaceful colonies. They think that is all we have." "Maybe they are right," said engineer Han Seung-min. From his station, "We do not have many warships out here. Most of our fleet is back defending Earth and the core worlds." Lee thought about this. It was true that the outer colonies had small defense forces. Most human settlements focused on research, mining, and farming. They had always believed that space was big enough for everyone to live in peace. "Send a message to Earth Command," Lee ordered. "Tell them what we found. They need to know about this threat." Kim nodded and began working on the message. "Captain, should we try to get closer to their ships? Maybe we can learn more about their weapons and defenses." "Too dangerous," Lee said. "If they detect us, we might not be able to warn Earth." He paused. "But we need to know more about what we are facing." Park continued working on the alien signals. After another hour, she found something that made her gasp. "Captain, I think I know who these aliens are. They call themselves the Vorthok Empire." "Never heard of them," Kim said. "Neither had I, but I found references in some old exploration. Reports other species have mentioned them. They are conquerors. They travel from system to system, taking over worlds and enslaving or killing everyone they find." Lee felt sick. "How many worlds have they conquered? Dozens, maybe hundreds. They have been doing this for a long time." Park's voice was shaking. "Captain, They are really good at this. They study their targets for months, then attack with overwhelming force. Most species surrender without fighting. But we are not most species, Kim said firmly. Humans do not give up easily. Park looked at him sadly. They do not know that. All they have seen are our peaceful research missions and small colony defense forces. They think we are like the other species they have conquered. Lee understood the problem. The Vorthok had been watching humans for months, but they had only seen the peaceful side of humanity. They had never witnessed what humans could do when they were truly threatened. How long until they attack? Lee asked. Park studied the messages again. Soon, the signals are getting more frequent. I think they're coordinating their fleets. Out she looked at the captain. Maybe days, maybe weeks. Not much longer. The bridge was quiet as everyone thought about what this meant. Somewhere out in space, a powerful alien empire was preparing to attack human colonies. They thought humans were weak and defenseless. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Lee made his decision. We stay here and keep monitoring their signals. I want to know everything about their plans before we report back to Earth Command. He looked at his crew. This might be the most important mission any of us ever complete. Kim checked his weapon systems. Captain, what if they detect us? Then we fight, Lee said simply. And we make sure our message gets back to Earth, no matter what happens to us. As the new Soul continued its silent watch, the crew worked. Through the night, they recorded alien battle plans, ship movements, and attack schedules. Each piece of information might save millions of human lives. In the distance, the Vorthok fleets gathered in the darkness, confident in their coming victory. They had studied humans for months and found them wanting. Soon, they would begin their harvest. They had no idea what was waiting for them. 3 weeks had passed since Captain Lee Hyunwoo sent his warning message to Earth Command. The new Soul remained hidden in the darkness between stars. Watching the Vorthok Empire gather their massive fleet, Dr. Park Ji-won worked day and night. To decode more alien messages, Commander Kim Tae-hyung prepared the ship for possible combat on the mining world of New Busan. Colonel Oh Min-ho was finishing his morning patrol when the sky began to burn. He stood on the observation deck of the defense station, watching the sun rise over the mining facilities that stretched to the horizon. New Busan was home to 2.3 million people, most of them families who had come here to build a better life. Colonel, we have contacts, his communications officer called out. Multiple ships coming out of hyperspace. Oh rushed to the command center. The screens showed dozens of massive alien vessels appearing in the system. They were bigger than anything in the human fleet, dark and covered with weapons. The Vorthok had arrived. Get me Earth Command, O ordered, and start the evacuation protocols. All civilians to the underground shelters. The first enemy shots came without warning. Bright beams of energy struck the orbital defense platforms, destroying them in seconds. The alien ships moved with deadly precision, targeting every human military installation on the planet. O watched his small defense force die on the screens. He had 300 soldiers and a few outdated fighters. The enemy had thousands of ships and weapons that could destroy buildings from orbit. It was not a battle. It was slaughter. Colonel, the communication array is under attack, his officer reported. We are losing contact with the outer colonies. Keep trying, O said. Earth Command needs to know what is happening here. The alien bombardment continued for hours. The mining facilities burned. The spaceport was destroyed. The civilian shelters shook under the impact of enemy fire. O knew they could not hold out much longer. Sir, we have a brief window, his communications officer said. The enemy is focusing on the northern sector. I can get a message through. O grabbed the microphone. This is Colonel Oh Min-ho of New Busan Defense Command. We are under attack by alien forces, massive fleet, unknown technology. They are targeting all human settlements. Tell Earth Command, this is not a small raid. This is war. The message went out just as another enemy beam destroyed the communication tower. The last transmission from New Busan was static. On Earth, Admiral Yoon So-young received the message in her office at Terra Defense Command. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes, but when she heard O's words, she became something. Different. Something dangerous. Get me the Defense Council, she ordered her aide. Emergency meeting now. Within an hour, the most powerful military leaders in human space were gathered in the secure conference room. The holographic display showed the last known position of the Vorthok fleet and the burning remains of New Busan. How many ships do they have? Asked General Nem Yong-soo, head of the Marine Corps. Our estimates say at least 2,000, replied Intelligence Director Shin Era. Possibly more? They have been building up for months. We have how many ships in the outer sectors? Yoon asked. Maybe 50, said Fleet Admiral Kong Donmin. Most of our fleet is here defending the core worlds. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the numbers. The Vorthok had a massive advantage in ships and weapons. But Yoon was not finished. They think we are weak, she said quietly. They've been watching our research ships in peaceful colonies. They think that is all we have. Maybe they are. Right, said General Nam. We have been at peace for over a century. Our military is small compared to what we had during the colony wars. Yoon smiled, but it was not a pleasant smile. Small, yes, but not weak, and certainly not unprepared. She activated another holographic display. This one showed industrial centers across human space, massive factories, shipyards, and weapons facilities that most people had forgotten existed. The Vorthok made one mistake, Yoon said. They assumed that what they could see was all we had. They never asked why a peaceful species would maintain such large industrial facilities. Director Shin understood first. The emergency protocols. It kept the ability to mobilize quickly if needed. Exactly. We learned from history. We stayed peaceful, but we kept the tools to defend ourselves. Yoon's voice grew stronger. Activate. Code Black. Full military mobilization. I want every factory converted to war production within 48 hours. The orders went out across human space. On hundreds of worlds, peaceful factories suddenly changed their purpose. The same machines that made farming equipment began producing weapons. Shipyards that built cargo vessels started building warships. The mining operations that extracted metals for construction began making armor and ammunition on New Busan. Colonel Oh led his surviving soldiers in a desperate evacuation of the remaining civilians. The enemy had landed ground forces, but they moved slowly and carefully. They were not used to resistance. Colonel, we have transport ships coming in, Major Choi Del-soo reported. They are running through the enemy blockade. Oh looked at the tactical display. Human ships were diving through the alien formation, taking heavy fire but continuing their mission. They were not warships, were cargo vessels and passenger liners that had been quickly armed with whatever weapons could be found. Those are civilians? Oh said with amazement. The merchant fleet is coming to help us. Captain Yang Mi-young's cargo ship took multiple hits as she landed at the emergency evacuation point. Her ship was not built for combat, but she had volunteered anyway. As civilians ran up the loading ramp, she kept her engines running. How many more trips can we make? She asked her engineer. Maybe 2, if we are lucky, he replied. Are failing, and the engines are damaged. Then we make 2 more trips, Yang said. The evacuation continued through the night. Human ships kept coming, even as the Vorthok destroyed many of them. The aliens were confused by this behavior. Species surrendered when faced with overwhelming force. Humans seemed to fight harder when the situation was hopeless. Back on the New Seoul, Dr. Park Ji-won intercepted Vorthok communications about the battle. Captain, they are surprised by our response. They expected immediate surrender. What are they saying? Lee asked. They are calling for reinforcements. They say humans are fighting differently than expected. Park paused. They are starting to realize this might not be as easy as they thought. Commander Kim smiled grimly. They have only seen the beginning. Wait until they meet our real military. The first phase of the war was ending. New Busan had fallen, but its people had been saved. The Vorthok had won their first battle, but they had also revealed their capabilities. Now humanity knew what they were facing, and humanity was getting ready to fight back. The destruction of New Busan sent shockwaves through human space. On thousands of worlds, people watched the news reports with growing anger. The aliens had attacked without warning, killing innocent civilians and destroying homes. A fear humanity felt something else rising within them, something that had been sleeping for over a century. Admiral Yoon So-young stood in the main command center on Earth, watching the industrial reports flow across her screens. The emergency mobilization was working better than anyone had hoped. Across human space, the Great War Machine was waking up. "Admiral, the new Gyeonggi shipyards are reporting full conversion," her aide announced. "They can begin production of military vessels within 12 hours? Yoon nodded. New Gyeonggi was one of the largest industrial worlds in human space. If Director Lim Yoon-ji could convert those massive factories quickly, they would have the ships they needed. On New Gyeonggi. Director Lim stood on the observation deck of Factory Complex 7. Below her, thousands of workers were removing the assembly lines that made civilian spacecraft and replacing them with military production equipment. The change was happening so fast it seemed impossible. Long since the conversion began, she asked her assistant. 18 hours, he replied. The workers have been going non-stop. They know what is at stake. Lim watched as the first military hull took shape on the assembly line. It was a destroyer, sleek and deadly. In the old days, it would have taken months to build such a ship. Now, with the new automated systems, they could finish one every 6 hours. Send a message to Admiral Yoon, Lim ordered. Tell her we will have 50 ships ready within the week. And that is just from this one factory. The message brought a smile to Yoon's face. Across human space, similar reports were coming in. The Vorthok had attacked a peaceful civilization, but they had awakened something much more dangerous. Captain Lee Hyun-woo received new orders while the new Seoul continued. Its secret watch of the alien fleet. His research vessel was being converted into something new. Dr. Park. G1 worked with military engineers to install experimental weapons based on her study of Vorthok technology. The new stealth systems are working perfectly, Park reported. We can get much closer to their ships without being detected. And the weapons? Lee asked, better than expected. We used their own science against them. Their shields are designed to stop energy weapons, but our new projectile systems can punch right through. Commander Kim Tae-hyung tested the new tactical systems. Captain, this ship is no longer just for research. We can actually fight now. Lee looked at his transformed vessel. The new Seoul still looked like a research ship on the outside, but inside, it was now a weapon of war. Good. We have work to do. The Vorthok, meanwhile, continued their advance through human space. They had easily conquered 2 more agricultural worlds, meeting only light resistance. Warprime Gextel was pleased with the progress. His intelligence reports showed that humans were weak and disorganized. The next target is the mining world of New Daegu, he told his fleet commanders. Our scouts report only a small defense. Force, we will take it within hours. But the Vorthok scouts had not seen everything. Hidden in the asteroid fields around New Daegu, a small human fleet was waiting. Commander Kim Tae-hyung led the new Seoul and 12 other converted vessels in humanity's first real counterattack. All ships maintained stealth mode, Kim ordered. Wait for my signal. The Vorthok fleet arrived at New Daegu with the same confidence they had shown before. They began their bombardment of the orbital stations, expecting another easy victory. They did not notice the human ships moving silently. Through the asteroids, Kim commanded, the human ships struck like ghosts in the night. Their new weapons tore through Vorthok shields as if they were made of paper. 3 alien cruisers were destroyed before they could even return fire. The remaining Vorthok ships were thrown into confusion. Impossible, Warprime Gextel muttered, as he watched the battle reports. Where did these weapons come from? The answer came from his intelligence officer. Warprime, we may have underestimated human capabilities. These are not the same ships we observed during our surveillance. The battle lasted only 20 minutes. The human fleet destroyed 8 Vorthok vessels and damaged several more before disappearing back into the asteroid field. The aliens were left staring at empty space, wondering what had just happened. On Earth, Admiral Yoon received the battle report with satisfaction. Excellent work, Commander Kim. How are the new weapons performing? Better than expected, Admiral? Dr. Parks? Modifications are very effective against their shields. Good. We are going to need every advantage we can get. But the real surprise came from the industrial reports. Director Lim's factories were producing ships faster than anyone had believed possible. The new Gyeonggi shipyards alone had completed 200 vessels in the first week. Similar facilities across human space were reporting equally impressive numbers. Admiral, we have a problem, General Nam reported during the daily briefing. A good problem, but still a problem.
What do
You mean we are building ships faster than we can crew them? The production rate is beyond our most optimistic estimates. Yoon studied the numbers. In 1 week, human industrial capacity had produced over 2,000 military vessels. The Vorthok had been building their fleet for months, and had only managed to field a similar number, and we expand the recruitment program, she decided. Every human who wants to fight gets a chance to serve. The response was overwhelming. Across human space, millions of people volunteered for military service. Farmers became gunners, engineers became pilots, teachers became tactical officers. The entire civilization was transforming from peaceful to militaristic in a matter of days. Dr. Park Ji-won made another important discovery while studying captured Vorthok technology. Admiral, I think I understand why they were so confident about attacking us. Explain. Their entire military doctrine is based on overwhelming force against unprepared enemies. They scout for months, then attack with everything they have. Most species surrender immediately when faced with such odds. But we are not most species, Yoon said. Exactly. They never considered that a peaceful civilization might maintain the ability to rapidly mobilize for war. They assumed that what they could see was all we had. The Vorthok were learning this lesson the hard way. Their easy conquest was becoming a nightmare. Human resistance was growing stronger every day, and their own losses were mounting. War Prime. Gextal called for reinforcements, but his superiors were beginning to ask uncomfortable questions. How had a weak species managed to destroy so many Vorthok ships? Where were these new weapons coming from? The truth was simple but terrifying. Humanity had been peaceful by choice, not because they were weak. Now that choice had been taken away from them, and the galaxy was about to see what humans could do when they really tried. 6 months after the fall of New Busan, the human war machine had grown beyond all expectations. Admiral Yoon So-young stood on the bridge of her flagship, the Indomitable, watching the largest fleet in human history prepare for battle. 2,000 warships stretched across space, their hulls gleaming with fresh armor and bristling with weapons. Admiral, all fleet units report ready for Operation Thunderbolt, her communications officer announced. Yoon nodded. Today they would take back the new Inchin system, the third world the Vorthok had captured. It was time to show the aliens what humanity could really do when pushed to war. Send the order. All ships jumped to hyperspace. The massive fleet vanished in flashes of light, leaving empty space behind. Hours later, they emerged at the edge of the new Inchin system, where a smaller Vorthok force was occupying the human colony, War Prime. Gextal was on the surface of New Inchin when his sensors detected the approaching human fleet. At first, he could not believe the numbers his officers were reporting. 2,000 ships, he demanded. That is impossible. Our intelligence said humans had less than 100 vessels in their entire fleet. Sir, the readings are confirmed, his tactical officer replied nervously. They have a massive fleet approaching our position. Gextal stared at the display screen. Each human ship was larger and more heavily armed than the vessels they had fought before. These were not converted research ships or lightly armed patrol boats. These were true warships, built for battle. How did they build so many ships so quickly? He asked. Nobody had an answer. The Vorthok had never faced an enemy capable of such rapid military expansion. In their experience, defeated species either surrendered or were destroyed. They did not suddenly produce fleets twice the size of their conquerors. Captain Lee Hyun-woo led the advance force of stealth frigates into the system. His ship, the New Soul, had been joined by 50 similar vessels, all equipped with the latest weapons developed by Dr. Park Ji-won. Captain, Enemy positions confirmed, Commander Kim Tae-hyung reported. 23 Vorthok ships in orbit. Around New Incheon, they are moving to intercept our main fleet. Perfect, Lee said. They still do not know we are here. Begin the attack. The stealth frigates struck first, appearing from nowhere to launch devastating attacks on the Vorthok. Rear guard. The alien ships focused on the approaching main fleet were caught completely off guard. 4 cruisers exploded before they could even turn to face their attackers. What is happening? Gextel demanded as his ships reported surprise attacks. From invisible enemies? Unknown contacts, sir? They appear to be using some kind of stealth technology we have never encountered before. The War Prime felt a cold fear creeping into his hearts. Everything about this battle was wrong. The humans were supposed to be weak and predictable. Instead, they were using advanced tactics and technologies that surpassed Vorthok capabilities. Major Choi Dolsu led the Marine Assault Force in their attack on the Vorthok ground installations. The soldiers dropped from orbit in armored pods, striking at the alien command centers with precision and speed. Remember, we are not just fighting for New Incheon, he told his troops over the radio. We are fighting for every human who has died in this war. Show them what happens when they threaten our people. The human Marines fought with a fury that shocked the Vorthok defenders. These were not the soft creatures they had expected. These were hardened warriors who showed no mercy to those who had attacked their homes. In space, Admiral Yoon's main fleet engaged the remaining Vorthok vessels in a massive battle. The human ships moved with perfect coordination, their weapons tearing through alien shields and armor with devastating effect. Admiral, the enemy is requesting permission to surrender, her communications officer reported. Denied, Yoon replied. Coldly, they did not offer our civilians the chance to surrender. They will receive the same mercy they showed us. The battle for New Incheon lasted 3 hours. When it ended, the Vorthok fleet had been completely destroyed. Not a single alien ship escaped to report what had happened. Dr. Park Ji-won analyzed the wreckage of the enemy vessels, making discoveries that would change the course of the war. Admiral, their technology is not as advanced as we thought. We rely on superior numbers and intimidation rather than innovation. What do you mean? Their ships are built for fighting enemies who surrender quickly. They have strong shields and powerful weapons, but they are not designed for prolonged combat against a determined opponent. Yoon studied the tactical reports. The Vorthok had won their previous conquests through shock and overwhelming force. When faced with an enemy that could match their numbers and fight back effectively, their advantages disappeared. They are bullies, she said finally. They are used to picking on weaker opponents. They do not know how to fight a real war. News of the victory at New Incheon spread quickly through human space. On thousands of worlds, people celebrated the first major defeat of the Vorthok Empire. But the celebrations were brief. Everyone knew this was just the beginning. Director Lim Yeonji received new orders to expand production even further. The industrial worlds were now producing 500 ships per week, a rate that would have been impossible just months earlier. The Admiral wants 10,000 ships ready within 3 months, her assistant reported. Then we will give her 10,000 ships, Lim replied. Expand the factories. Hire more workers. Convert every available facility to military production. The transformation was remarkable. Human civilization had completely changed from peaceful to militaristic in less than a year. But it was not mindless aggression. It was the focused anger of a species that had been attacked without cause. War Prime Gextel's superiors were not pleased when they learned of the disaster at New Incheon. The High Command had expected easy victories, not devastating defeats. You told us humans were weak, Supreme War Leader Vextel said during the Emergency Council meeting. You said they would surrender after losing a few worlds. The intelligence was accurate at the time, Gextel protested. Something has changed. They are not the same species we observed during our surveillance. Then find out what changed, Vexel ordered. And find a way to stop them before they destroy more of our fleets. But it was already too late. Across human space, more fleets were being assembled. Industrial machine was reaching full capacity, producing weapons and ships at an unprecedented rate. The species that had been peaceful for over a century was now fully committed to war, and they were very good at it, Captain. Lee received new orders as his fleet prepared for the next phase of operations. They would not be defending human worlds anymore. They would be attacking Vorthok territory, carrying the war to the enemy's home systems. Captain, are you ready for this? Commander Kim asked. Lee looked at the star charts showing Vorthok space. They started this war by attacking our innocent civilians. Now they will learn what it means to face humanity when we are truly angry. The tide of war had turned. The hunters were about to become the hunted. The roles had completely reversed. Commander Kim Tae-hung led his strike force deep into Vorthok space. Targeting the alien shipyards and supply bases that kept their empire running, his ships moved like shadows through enemy territory, appearing without warning to destroy key installations before vanishing back into the darkness. Target confirmed, his weapons officer reported as they approached the Vorthok shipyard at Kethmer. 12 enemy vessels under construction, plus defensive platforms. Kim studied the tactical display. The shipyard was heavily defended, but the Vorthok had made a critical error. They had designed their defenses to stop large fleets, not small groups of fast-moving stealth ships. All units begin the attack. Hit the construction base first, then the fuel storage. The human ships struck with devastating precision. Their new weapons, improved versions of Dr. Park Ji-won's original designs, tore through the Vorthok shields like they were made of paper. Within minutes, the shipyard was burning wreckage floating in space. "Sir, enemy reinforcements approaching," the sensor operator announced. "Too late," Kim said with satisfaction. "Mission accomplished. All ships, retreat to hyperspace." The human fleet vanished, leaving the Vorthok defenders to stare at the ruins of one of their most important industrial centers. This was the 15th such attack in the past month. The aliens were learning what it felt like to be hunted. On the industrial world of New Jeongi, director Lim Young-ji watched the production numbers with amazement. Her factories were now building ships faster than anyone had thought possible. The assembly lines ran day and night, producing vessels that were larger and more powerful than anything the Vorthok had ever seen. "How many ships this week?" she asked her assistant. 800 completed, with another 300 in final assembly, he replied. "The new automated systems are working perfectly." Lim nodded. The human industrial machine had reached full capacity, producing warships at a rate that dwarfed the entire Vorthok Empire. More importantly, each new ship was better than the last. Human engineers were constantly improving the designs, making them faster, stronger, and more deadly. "Send a message to Admiral Yoon," she ordered. "Tell her we can maintain current production rates indefinitely. The Vorthok cannot match our industrial capacity." The message brought a grim smile to Admiral Yoon's face. She stood in the command center of the massive space station that had become the headquarters of the human war effort. Around her, thousands of officers coordinated the movements of fleets that now numbered in the tens of thousands. "Admiral, we have reports from the front lines," her aide announced. "Commander Kim's raids have destroyed 43 Vorthok facilities in the past month. Enemy ship production has dropped by 60%, Goodyoon replied. "What about the liberation operations?" "Proceeding ahead of schedule, we have freed 17 worlds from Vorthok control. The local populations are joining our cause." This was perhaps the most important development of the war. As human forces advanced into Vorthok territory, they discovered that the alien empire was built on fear and oppression. Dozens of different species had been conquered and enslaved by the Vorthok over the centuries, Captain. Lee Hyun-woo led the liberation of the world called Nexus 7 by its human inhabitants, but known as Dekmar to the Vorthok. The planet was home to a species called the Kaleri, who had been enslaved for over 200 years. "Captain, the Kaleri leaders want to meet with you," Dr. Park Ji-won reported. She had been studying the alien languages and cultures they encountered during their advance. Lee met with the Kaleri elders in the ruins of their former capital city. The aliens were small and peaceful, with large eyes that showed both fear and hope. "You fight the Vorthok," their leader said in broken human language. "We thought no one could stand against them. We are not like the other species they conquered, Lee replied. We fight back. Can you truly defeat them? The elder asked. They have been our masters for so long. We will defeat them, Lee promised. And we will help you rebuild your world. The Kalari were not the only species eager to join the human cause. As word spread that the Vorthok could be beaten, rebellions began on dozens of worlds. The alien empire, which had seemed so powerful just a year ago, was beginning to crumble from within. War Prime. Gextel received increasingly desperate reports from across his territory. His fleets were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. His supply lines were under constant attack. His subject worlds were in revolt. Supreme War Leader, we need reinforcements, he pleaded during his daily communication with the High Command. The humans are not fighting like any enemy we have faced before. You said the same thing 6 months ago? Vextel replied coldly. Yet they continue to advance. Perhaps the problem is not with our enemies, but with our commanders. Vestal felt a chill of fear. In the Vorthok Empire, failed commanders did not receive second chances. Sir, give me more time. I can stop them. Time is what we do not have, Vextel said. They are approaching our core worlds. Soon, they will threaten the homeworld itself. The reality was even worse than the Vorthok. Leadership understood. Dr. Park Ji-1 had made a crucial discovery about their enemy's psychology. The Vorthok were a species that had never faced serious opposition. Their entire culture was built on the idea that they were superior to all other forms of life. Admiral, I think I understand why they are collapsing so quickly, she reported. To Yoon, they have never learned to adapt to changing circumstances. When their standard tactics fail, they do not know what to do. Explain. For centuries, they have won every battle the same way. Overwhelming force, quick victory, enemy surrender. They have never fought a prolonged war against a determined opponent. Yoon studied the psychological profile, so they are not just losing battles, they are losing confidence in their own superiority. Each defeat makes them weaker, not just militarily, but psychologically. They are starting to doubt themselves. This was proving true across the front lines. Vorthok forces were surrendering more easily, often without a fight. Their commanders were making increasingly desperate decisions. Their carefully planned strategy was falling apart. Major Choi Dal-Su led a marine assault on the Vorthok fortress world of Vakthara. His soldiers expected fierce resistance, but instead found demoralized defenders who barely fought back. Sir, the enemy is requesting terms for surrender, his communications officer reported. Tell them the same thing we told their friends, Choi replied. Unconditional surrender or complete destruction. Those are their only choices. The Vorthok garrison surrendered within hours. It was becoming a pattern. The species that had once conquered entire star systems was now giving up at the first sign of human resistance. But the war was not over yet. The Vorthok High Command was preparing for a final, desperate gamble. They were gathering their remaining forces for a last stand at their homeworld. It would be the largest battle in galactic history. Admiral Yoon received the intelligence reports with grim satisfaction. They are making their final stand at Vorthok Prime. They are gathering every ship they have left. How many? Her aide asked. Oh. Our estimates say 5,000 ships will be their entire remaining fleet. And our forces, ships and growing, we will outnumber them 3-1. The final battle was coming. The Vorthok Empire would make one last attempt to destroy humanity. But they had already lost the war. They just did not know it yet. The hunters had become the hunted, and the prey was about to become the predator. The final battle began at dawn on Vorthok Prime. Admiral Yoon So-young stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the massive enemy fleet take defensive positions around their homeworld. 15,000 human ships faced 5,000 Vorthok vessels in what would be the last great battle of the war. Admiral, the enemy is hailing us, her communications officer reported. Put them through. Warprime Gextel appeared on the main screen. He looked older and more tired than when the war had begun. His proud bearing was gone, replaced by desperate determination. Admiral Yoon, I request a ceasefire, he said. We are prepared to negotiate terms. The time for negotiation ended when you attacked New Busan, Yoon replied coldly. You will surrender unconditionally, or we will destroy you completely. You cannot seriously expect us to simply give up our empire, Gextal protested. We have ruled this galaxy for 1,000 years. And now your rule is ending, Yoon said. You made one simple mistake. You assumed we were weak because we chose to be peaceful. You forgot that peace is a choice, not a weakness. The War Prime's expression showed his confusion. Your species was soft. We observed you for months. You had no military, no weapons, no will to fight. You saw what we wanted you to see, Yoon explained. We learned long ago that the best way to avoid war is to be ready for it while appearing harmless. You fell for the oldest trick in military history. Dr. Park Ji-won had been right about Vorthok psychology. The aliens had built their entire identity around being superior to other species. The idea that they had been deceived by a supposedly inferior race was breaking their minds. This is impossible, Gextal said. We are the masters of this galaxy. We do not lose to lesser species. You are about to learn otherwise, Yoon said. Final warning. Surrender now, or face the consequences. The transmission ended. Gextal turned to his fleet commanders, his eyes filled with desperate fury. All ships, attack. Show them what it means to challenge the Vorthok Empire. The alien fleet charged forward, their weapons blazing. But they were facing an enemy they no longer understood. The human fleet moved with perfect coordination, their ships weaving through the enemy formation like dancers in a deadly ballet. Captain Lee Hoyan-woo led his battle group straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. His ship, the New Soul, had been upgraded again with the latest weapons and armor. Round him, thousands of other vessels followed his lead. All units target their command ships, he ordered. Cut off their leadership, and the rest will fall. The human ships struck with devastating precision. Their weapons, perfected through months of combat, tore through Vorthok shields and armor with ease. The aliens' superior technology meant nothing. When faced with superior tactics and overwhelming numbers, Commander Kim Tae-hung led a strike force against the Vorthok flagship. His Marines had been training for this moment for months. They knew exactly where to hit the enemy ship to cause maximum damage. Remember, we want the War Prime alive, he told his soldiers as they prepared for the boarding action. He needs to witness the end of his empire. The assault pods launched from the human ships, crossing the space between fleets under heavy fire. Many were destroyed, but enough reached their target. The Marines fought their way through the alien ship, their advanced weapons and armor, giving them a decisive advantage. Major Choi Dal-soo led the final assault on the Vorthok Command Center. The aliens fought desperately, but they were no match. For human soldiers who had been forged in the fires of war, War Prime Gextal, you are under arrest, Choi announced as his Marines surrounded the alien leader. By the authority of the Terran Defense Forces, I am placing you in custody for war crimes. Gextal stared at the human soldiers in disbelief. This cannot be happening. The Vorthok do not surrender. We do not lose. You just did, Choi replied. In space, the battle was reaching its climax. The Vorthok fleet was being systematically destroyed by the superior human forces. Ship after ship exploded or surrendered as their crews realized the futility of continuing the fight. Director Lim Young-ji watched the battle from her command center on New Jonggi, the industrial world that had become the heart of the human war. Machine was now producing ships faster than they could be destroyed. The Vorthok had never faced an enemy with such unlimited resources. The enemy fleet is broken, her aide reported. 90% of their ships are destroyed or surrendered. Good, Lim said. Begin conversion of the military factories back to civilian production. This war is over. The final Vorthok resistance collapsed when their flagship was captured. With War Prime Gextal in human custody, the remaining alien commanders had no choice but to surrender. The mighty empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was finished. Admiral Lee Yoon received the surrender of the Vorthok High Command in a ceremony broadcast across the galaxy. The alien leaders, once proud conquerors, now stood as defeated prisoners before the human fleet. The Vorthok Empire is hereby dissolved, Yoon announced. All conquered worlds are free to determine their own governments. All enslaved species are liberated. The age of Vorthok domination is over. The news spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On dozens of worlds, enslaved species celebrated their freedom. The Vorthok, who had seemed invincible just 2 years ago, were now prisoners of the humans they had underestimated. Dr. Park Gon studied the psychological profiles of the captured Vorthok leaders. Admiral, they still do not understand what happened to them. They cannot accept that they were defeated by a species they considered inferior. Perhaps that is for the best, Yun replied. Let them spend their remaining years trying to figure out how they lost to the soft humans. The war was over, but the work of peace was just beginning. Captain Lee led the effort to establish the Galactic Liberation Council, a new organization dedicated to helping the freed worlds rebuild their civilizations. We must ensure that nothing like the Vorthok Empire ever rises again, he told the assembled representatives of 50 different species. Freedom is not something that can be taken for granted. The council agreed to establish a mutual defense pact with humanity, providing the military backbone while the other species contributed their unique skills and knowledge. The galaxy would be protected, but it would never again be ruled by a single empire. War Prime Gexdal spent his final days in a human prison, still trying to understand how his mighty empire had fallen to a species he had dismissed as weak. The answer was simple, but his mind could not accept it. Humanity had not been weak. They had been patient. They had not lacked weapons. They had hidden them. They had not been unprepared for war, had been preparing for it while hoping it would never come. The Vorthok had made the ultimate mistake. They had confused kindness with weakness, peace with helplessness. They had attacked a sleeping giant and awakened something they could never defeat. Admiral Yun stood on the observation deck of her flagship. Watching the ships of the New Galactic Alliance patrol the spaceways, the message was clear to anyone who might threaten the peace. Humanity extends friendship to all peaceful species, she had said in her final address to the galaxy. But to those who mistake our kindness for weakness, remember this: you only make that mistake once. The galaxy was at peace, and humanity stood as its protector. The lesson of the Vorthok Empire would not be forgotten. Waging war against humanity was a mistake no species would make twice.